totally clear and concise. And,
Nice.
as you were working through your ideas, I like how you then just came down to, you know what, this person needs to be self-aware. They need to be open and self-aware because you can be as brilliant as you want, but
Mm.
if you're not open and self-aware, you're not going to get the results.
My name is Kerryn. I have a PhD in biological anthropology in the evolution of humans, and I am an academic coach. We're people to help you think about your own research and start allowing yourself to engage with the research process within, among young academics. So often, in my case, among graduate students, but we do still get, young academics from other spheres as well. Academic coaching is not supervision. It's not, pointing you directly into a sphere of research. It's really to help guide you in the ways in which you can start thinking about your own research. The supervisor is meant to be knowledgeable in a very specific sphere of academic research, and mentors are often within the same field, not always, but often within the same field. They have a huge amount of power over students. And even if you have the best supervisor, who's the kindest person, who's the most gentle, who's the most on board, who has immense amounts of time to help you, it is very difficult for all of us to really separate the fact that they have huge amounts of control over our futures. And I think for the average student, having that same level of vulnerability and honesty with their supervisors or with people within the same discipline is very difficult. A coach is somebody who technically doesn't have power over you. They're not going to write your reference letters. They're not going to they're not going to directly involve themselves in your potential careers. They are typically people who are only there to just help you with this immediate need. And that gives a lot of students, I think, the space to be vulnerable, to be self-reflective in an academy that is maybe not very conducive for that. And so when it comes to why somebody might need a coach, quite often it's to allow them that sort of space to be with somebody who kind of knows what's going on, but without having the fear of maybe retaliation or them thinking about you in a certain way. Clients who are in their 60s, clients who are in their 20s, as I say, clients who are CEOs of big businesses, clients who are mothers and fathers and, traveling. And I wouldn't say that those are the factors from all over the world, as South America to China to, Saudi Arabia, all over the world, want an end goal. They want to have an academic frame of thinking. They know they're not there yet, and they know that there's somebody out there who can help them, so they'll seek them out. And that is a very mature person on average, I have to be honest. I also like clients who don't just stop with the vulnerability, that they're also able to do some self-reflecting as to what they're good at. So there are people who can say, look here, I know I don't work very well under these circumstances, but there are times when I work very well under these circumstances, and I'm not very strong over here, but I am very strong over there. And when I have a client who's willing to sort of balance what they know and what they don't know, willing to acknowledge their strengths, willing to point out the areas that they need work with, that is a client who will, let's just say, be very easy to work with, because they are willing to acknowledge themselves honestly. people who come to me as excelling students already, and then we're sort of looking at making sure that maybe they're getting from a consistent B to a B plus or to an A or something, and they're just wanting to make sure that this degree isn't what kind of this dissertation isn't exactly what pulls them down. Sometimes with those excelling students, it's about encouraging them to perhaps not bite off more than they can chew. So what we seem to see for a lot of very good students is they might, default to doing the most complicated methods or combination of methods, when perhaps that isn't necessary. Even to get a good mark, it isn't necessary, or might even, sabotage themselves in some way, because it'll just eat away at the time that they have available. So with those students, I think a big thing is coming across what it is that they're wanting, and having them be able to have that honest conversation as to what they want. Are they just wanting an A in this module? Are they wanting to finish in time? Are they wanting to make sure that they've produced the best possible dissertation with what they have? Are they perhaps not having a good relationship with their supervisor and really just need somebody who can help them fill those gaps? So within those students, having that honest conversation as to what they even want out of this dissertation, and that will help me figure out how best to help them. Either if they're not clear about what they want, having enough of a conversation to figure out what they want out of the dissertation as a whole and how best I can help them achieve that. That requires somebody who's willing to sort of, be reflective, at least, be self-aware, acknowledge perhaps the pros and cons of certain approaches, and be willing to have those kinds of conversations. So an open, self-aware person is going to get the most out of coaching, regardless of how well they're already doing, perhaps in the rest of their program. The things that I love is when a student, a client will say to me, "Look here, Kerryn, I loved my master's so much. You made it so easy, or you helped me really reflect on the sort of the bits of academia that were achievable, rather than sort of refocus on the things that I was dreading, that I'm actually thinking of doing a PhD, or thinking of continuing down this process." That's a really nice outcome. I would say that, when people learn to love the process, and the process becomes a little bit less vague for them and a little bit more concrete, then they can sort of see how they can reuse the same strategy or same set of strategies for something else. And I really love that. One of the things that I seem to see quite frequently, more tangibly, is when they send me a draft of something and I provide them with comments and feedback on it. And sometimes they'll send me a draft again. I don't always encourage a second time, but sometimes they'll send it to me again. And seeing that improvement, that improvement from the draft that they initially sent me to that next draft, and how much somebody can incorporate small ideas, small actionable ideas, and use it effectively, is something that often makes me feel very happy. It's just like, oh wow, this was just somebody who started off very unclear, not hitting any of the concepts, within one draft has changed everything so that it is clear, it is academic, it is of very good quality. One conversation, one one-on-one coaching session where somebody asks about perhaps a chapter and what that chapter is meant to do and how to consider it in line with the literature that they've read. Perhaps they've had the sticking point and that's just prevented them from writing, and we go through that stage. Seeing them a week later send me like a 4,000 word chapter to review is a fantastic place, because then it's really saying to me that they're managing to be confident in themselves enough to acknowledge the weaknesses or acknowledge their sticking points and push through them, and and get to the other side of that. So I like the idea of changing people's mindsets, making the research process easy and straightforward for them, and having them feel like they can engage with it in every facet of their life, rather than only having a good grade. Although I think that those two things are quite linked, to be honest. But more importantly, it's in the way that they think. It's in the fact that, you know, if they have to do another literature review or another research project, that they have the tools that are needed to help build their own research, and to perhaps use this in the broader world where, you know, where research might be something that is given to them constantly and for work purposes, and they need to learn how to interpret it, know how to use it within their careers when it comes to you know, designing reports or designing internal studies for their own you know, businesses, which are technically different, but the thinking processes that go behind it can be very informative.